Hey guys, it's me, Pokemon Jabber HD, and today we have a special video because we are helping out our good buddy Look It's Tristan by substituting for him. So we are using his team, the Venice Beach Victinis, in the Krash League for this Week 8 battle against the Philadelphia Floatzels and their coach, Codster. So the team that I will be using consists of Zygarde, Latios, Scizor, Shaman, Blaziken, Alolan Ninetales, Uxie, Electrode, Prinplup, Mega Gyarados, and the Dragonium Z, while the team we will be facing consists of Bisharp, Kingdra, Electivire, Amoonguss, Pelipper, Infernape, Cresselia, Gligar, Drifblim, Perugly, and the Mega Diancie with the Ghostium Z. So, when I first obviously see the matchup here, there's the obvious rain element on the opponent's side with the Pelipper, Kingdra, and then just fat elements of Amoonguss, Cresselia, Gligar. So I know that those obviously are things that can very well get in the way and are the main things I want to build around, beating. So without further ado, the first one on the team is Alolan Ninetales with Blizzard, Freeze Dry, Nasty Plot, Aurora Veil, and the Light Clay, with enough speed to outspeed Infernape, and then the rest is just HP to make it bulky and defense with just the little remaining. But this, I mean, mostly can be support in that it's just getting rid of the rain, and it can set up Aurora Veil. But then if I see the opportunity, I can Nasty Plot, and the only ice resist on the team is, I believe, Infernape, and Bisharp, which both are pretty frail, so I didn't see any need to put any extra coverage since Freeze Dry is the ×4 effectiveness against the Rain Core, so I didn't see the need to fit on like Moonblast or like a Hidden Power Ground or anything. Then next up we have Mega Gyarados, which is just adamant, enough speed to outspeed a timid Pelipper with the Waterfall, Crunch, Dragon Dance, and Substitute. Substitute's really only there if I'm like with an Aurora Veil up, because I'm not very bulky, but I did put the what little remained from the speed that I was wanting in special defense, so there's a possibility to sub up on maybe the Amoonguss, the Pelipper, or the Cresselia, like a lot of the fat stuff. So, but regardless, this I wanted as much power as possible since I didn't want to deal with fat things walling me out. So I figured just full on adamant max attack. Regardless of if I can set up a Dragon Dance or not, I can just do a ton of damage and not even have to worry. Next up we have Scizor with the Iron Plate, Bullet Punch knockoff Swords Dance Roost, with enough speed to outspeed a very minimal speed investment Cresselia, and this is more just to be able to roost, stall it if it's not running any speed, and if it is running the speed, then that means it's less bulk. So regardless, I can outspeed most of the fat things, and it's also the same speed as Gligar. So if Gligar's not running much speed, then I can knock off, and even if it is, it can't do that much to me. So the Bullet Punch and knockoff covers pretty much everything beyond Bisharp and things that are faster that resist Bullet Punch, really being the Bisharp and Electivire and Infernape. However, with the Iron Plate, if I get up to +2, since I'm Adamant Nature with some attack investment, I just do a ton of damage anyway, so this actually can, set up and sweep potentially late game if I'm weakening some things, but if not, it can help me break things as well, so I think that, this should, just in general, cause issues, since like even HP Fire from like Cresselia and Amoonguss don't really do that much damage, so should be fine. And especially if Rain is up, then that just helps me even more. The next up we have Yuxi with the Psychic, Hidden Power Fighting, Toxic, Stealth Rock, and the Leftovers, which it is Fizz Def, but or mostly Fizz Def, I would say, I guess, just because it's not running a whole lot of investment, just because I put the speed to outspeed Bisharp, so I can just Hidden Power Fighting it, which I doubt it kills, like I didn't bother calcing it, but regardless it'll weaken it, so, because Bisharp, I mean, it can be an issue, but at least for the most part to this team, it's not a huge issue at all, just because the things that are faster than it, like, or at least I don't have like necessarily like I said with the other, I have like the ice type moves from the Alolan Ninetales, and then I have Scizor hitting it with Bullet Punch most likely, so like I'm hitting it with a lot of resisted hits, so I figured that at least something should have, or a couple things should have ways to hit it harder and also be faster, so this is one of those. And then Toxic is just good for the fat stuff, while Psychic hits the Amoonguss, so that can't be toxic, so that's really nice. And obviously rocks are just great in general. And if Dancy is physical, then this can help deal with that. However, if it is special, along with the Raincore being potentially special, which is what I would expect if it comes, this helps me deal with it the most, being the Shaman, which is just maxed Spadef completely with Leftovers and Seed Flare, Earth Power, Psychic, and the rest, because Synthesis in the Rain obviously doesn't really do a whole lot for me, so I can rest up and then switch out, which, yes, that's kind of, it sucks to have to switch out to be able to, really utilize it. However, I wanted this coverage. I didn't want to run Sleep Talk, because I wanted, like, so Seed Flare and Earth Power for sure had to come, because obviously that by itself covers just about everything, at least neutrally. And the only thing that wasn't really hitting very hard was the Amoonguss, which the Amoonguss, I mean, I know I'm not really invested, but I can see a situation where I want to weaken it, since it has the annoying regenerator. I can, if it switches in on a Sleep Flare, which that's a very something that would be an easy switch in for him to do, then if I get the -2 Spadef drop on it, then I can Psychic it for decent damage to just force it out. So and this, it doesn't even, it's even though Amoonguss is poison type, since I'm max Spadef, it really doesn't do a whole lot of damage. Then lastly, we have some immediate power, since I have a lot of setup here. This is Banded Zygarde with 1000 Arrows, Outrage, Extreme Speed, Toxic, the standard 4 moves for standard play, but then Adamant with enough speed to outspeed Kingdra outside of the rain, and by that I mean like modest or Adamant Kingdra, not like timid or jolly, just because if rain's coming, then there's no point in making it like jolly or timid. So I think that's more of a threat than a Kingdra that is outside of rain, honestly. So if it outspeeds me because rain wasn't brought, then it's not a big deal, honestly. So yeah, this should definitely help break things open. Obviously the Cresselia can still take hits, and the Gligar can take hits from this. However, can Toxic the Cresselia, and the rest of my team, handles Gligar a lot. So this should be a solid match. I mean, Rain can always be scary, but I think Shaman for sure should really help me win this game, since he's gonna have a hard time just breaking Shaman in general. Now we'll be back at Team Preview. And we are back with Team Preview, as my opponent has decided to bring the Mega DNC, Electivire, Kingdra, Amoonguss, Bisharp, and Purugly. So obviously no Rain, which is just one less thing to worry about for me. And although the Kingdra, I will now, if I will have to be more weary of that with my Zygarde. Like I had mentioned, I don't think it's as big of a threat, but obviously I don't want to risk immediately it being faster than my Zygarde. So I will be, cautious of that if it comes out. But Shaman switches into to like half this team being the first 3 Mons in Mega DNC, Electivire, and Kingdra, so that's just awesome. But what I'm noticing is since there's no Cresselia, I can just lead off with Zygarde and go for Banded Thousand Arrows, as he leads off with the Bisharp. So I'm just gonna, like I said, just go for Thousand Arrows, and it dies turn 1. So Bisharp is gone. I mean, it wasn't the biggest threat to my team regardless, but I don't think that, I would want to deal with that anytime. And so now I'm gonna go into my Shaman, as it's my dedicated switch in, as it goes for the Moonblast, and it doesn't do too much, so I'm just free to throw off a Seed Flare. No need to predict anything. It does 0 damage to the Amoonguss as expected, and so I'm just going to go for the Psychic just to try to gauge some information from this, as he goes for the Hidden Power Fire, and it does absolutely no damage. And so now I'm going to switch into Uxie, because this seems like an opportunity for me to get up rocks, and he goes for the Sludge Bomb, and it doesn't do a whole lot, but it does get the poison. So goes into the Purugly as I get up my rocks. Actually, no, I went for Psychic. I'm sorry, but I'm getting ahead of myself here. Psychic obviously threatens it out, but could have done plenty of damage, so it does go for the Fake Out. With some Fizz Def, I'm still 50%, and I can take any hit from this. So he does go for the Body Slam, and now I'm gonna get up my rocks. So this Uxie has done its job already. But since he's going for Body Slam, I'm just gonna switch into my Scizor, and he does get the paralysis, unfortunately. But now he's going for Sucker Punch, and he seems to be staying in, as I went for the knockoff on that turn, but I got fully paralyzed. So now I'm just gonna click Roost, since he's just insistent on attacking for whatever reason, even though he can't really do anything to me. So now I can try to Swords Dance up, so I'm gonna Swords Dance, but I do get fully paralyzed again. And so he just keeps body slamming, I'm not sure why, but I do get my Swords Dance up finally, but now I'm gonna go for the Roost since I'm not very healthy. And so I do thankfully get the Roost off, and I can now just attack and see if I can 2-hit KO, which, based off of the damage earlier, I figured out that it was actually more specially defensive than physically defensive, so Bullet Punch does 70%. So now I can just go for a second Bullet Punch, barring me getting paralyzed, I get a kill, or just a ton of damage on something. So now that gives him the switch into Electivire, and I can just go into Uxie to sack as he goes for the Fire Punch. So it's just good information to have, but this now lets me go into Gyarados to get the Intimidate off, and I want to see if he's choiced or not, so I'm going to just switch right out into my Zygarde to see if he goes for an electric move, which he does. So since he's at -1, he can't knock me out with an Ice Punch, so I can just go for the 1,000 Arrows, which does a good amount of damage. But I didn't calc this during it, which I should have, because apparently that damage, it means it's really bulky. So actually I was probably faster, but I switched out because I was fearing it to be possibly faster than me, and since it was bulky, I did have to actually go for Seed Flare here to make sure I knocked out as he got greedy and went for the Focus Energy. So thankfully I hit my Seed Flare, and so now he goes into the Electivire, trying to predict me, goes for Wild Charge, but I'm just going to stay in an Earth Power to get off damage. I don't kill, unfortunately, which I was hoping it would, but that's okay. Now I can just go for the rest. Or actually the Earth Power, I apologize. Getting ahead of myself yet again. So I Earth Power the Electivire to get yet another kill for Shaman, and so now I can rest because he brings in the Amoonguss instead of the Diancie, and so I rest up. The Sludge Bomb doesn't do a whole lot, and now I can just switch out into Zygarde, as I can just spam 1,000 arrows now as he goes for Synthesis, and 1,000 arrows, it does about half, so that's, you know, fine with me. He can't just keep synthesizing since he only has 8. Except then this 1,000 arrows actually does 63, so apparently that was a low roll in the first one. And so now he goes into his Mega Diancie, as I can just go into my my Shaman, because it takes hits from this, as he goes for the Calm Mind on my Seed Flare, so it does not quite knock out. But at +1, he should not be able to kill me from here. And I do live on 4%, as I can just Earth Power to finish the game. And so that was a pretty straightforward game. I think the team I brought, or at least, you know, Shaman being the Max Spadef variant with the coverage, just was too much for his team to handle, since he didn't have an immediate weight. He didn't have a super effective stab other than, I think, of what Amoonguss' Sludge Bomb, and otherwise it was just doing, you know, nothing else was doing enough damage. So Shaman was definitely unkillable, and then if the Scizor hadn't gotten paralyzed so much, there was a possibility where I actually just Swords Dance up enough to just KO everything maybe. But regardless, I think this game was very easily in hand since there was no rain. It made Scizor just absolutely amazing in this game, and I think that the Banded Zygarde really just broke the game open and made sure that nothing could just sit in front of me ever. So felt really good, and I'm glad to get the win for my boy Tristan. So I believe I am also subbing for next week, so expect to see week 9 as well. And thank you for watching. Bye!